The story begins with a building collapsing. People were calling for an ambulance. Inside the wreckage, a man lay trapped. He believed his luck had finally run out. His whole life had been filled with bad luck. No matter how hard he tried, things always went wrong. He lived without expectations. If he ever got the chance to live again, he wouldn't wish for happiness. He just wanted a normal life. Not a meaningless one, but a simple life where he could do some good from time to time. Then the scene shifted to a woman named Leah. She had just given birth to a baby boy. The nurse told her that the baby was healthy. Overjoyed, she and her family named him Siegbert. The newborn, however, had a shocking realization. He had really been reincarnated. He was now a baby. A flashback followed, showing what happened after the man's death. After being crushed by a steel pole from a collapsing building, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. Confused, he wondered how he was still conscious. A man appeared before him and thanked him for his hard work. This man introduced himself as the keeper of life and death. He explained that this place existed between life and death. The keeper told him that his life had already been completed, acknowledging that it had been filled with misfortune, but there was no need to worry. He would soon reincarnate into a completely new world. Not only that, but he would also receive special advantages. Without warning, the keeper threw a contract at him. He explained the conditions. First, the man would keep the memories of his past life. Soon after reincarnating, he would be able to understand the language of his new world. The blessing of reincarnation would grant him many useful benefits and points. Most importantly, he would receive a special ability, appraisal eyes. These eyes had an incredible power that would allow him to judge and evaluate anything he saw. The keeper hinted that this ability was even more special in his case. He assured him that once he used it, he would understand just how powerful it truly was. The final part of the reincarnation lottery had arrived. The protagonist found it very suspicious. He wanted an explanation about the world, but he had no choice except to accept reality. He received a golden bead and thought that even with his terrible luck, he had still gotten something valuable. The keeper gave him a questioning look and said that he had received that world, as expected for someone with luck. Without any delay, the keeper threw him into the chosen world. As he fell, he realized that the keeper's smiling face would be the last memory of his previous life. After that, the story shifted to the present. Siegbert, the protagonist, was now a baby. He looked small and cute. His mother, Leah, asked if he recognized her face. Sieg saw his new mother's face clearly. His father, Gilbert, was also there and said that Sieg looked healthy. Leah told Gilbert not to be too rough with the baby since his neck was still weak. Sieg wanted to understand who he was and learn about this world as quickly as possible. However, since he was still a baby, he couldn't talk or walk. He noticed his father's clothes and confirmed that he had truly been reborn in another world. Then he remembered what the keeper had said about magic with special benefits. The keeper had mentioned something called appraisal eyes. Siegbert immediately decided to use them, but then realized that the keeper had never explained how to activate them. Determined, he tried to sense their power. Suddenly, many windows appeared in front of him. Sieg quickly adapted because they looked like game windows. To be honest, he didn't fully understand everything, but it was nice to know he had already gained all the magic attributes. However, when he checked his ability values, his luck stat was at 200, while his other stats were very low. His magic was at 100. Two little kids arrived. One had a big smile, her name was Ariane. The other looked shy, his name was Theobald. The maid told them to be quiet because Leah and Sieg still needed rest. Ariane's face fell and she apologized. She had been too excited to meet Sieg for the first time. Theo promised to be more careful next time. Ariane looked at her little brother and said he was adorable. She added that when their older brother saw him, he would spoil him. Theo said Sieg looked like their mother, which made him so cute. But from a baby's perspective, it was scary. Feeling nervous, Sieg grabbed Theo's finger. The children got excited and said they wanted to play with him. Ariane thought Sieg looked like a doll and wanted to dress him in cute doll clothes, but Theo reminded her that Siegbert was a boy and probably wouldn't like that. Sieg felt scared because he didn't want them to play too roughly with him. Ariane thanked him for being born. Leah felt happy seeing them get along so well. Sieg found it hard to believe that his family was so warm and kind. Despite his bad luck in his past life, he was truly grateful to have been born into this family. Leah reminded everyone that the initial appraisal was scheduled for tomorrow and they planned to ask Willie to handle it. When Sieg heard this, he wondered what an initial appraisal was. Gilbert, however, was not happy. He said he didn't trust the appraisers, especially after what happened with Gelt. But Leah reassured him, saying that if Willie did it, everything would be fine. Sieg was hearing these names for the first time. Willie was the uncle of the children. Theo mentioned that their uncle worked far away. He was a great knight, always traveling for missions, and at the moment he was outside the country. Then Theo asked if Sieg really needed the initial appraisal. What if something like what happened to Gelt happened again? Ariane explained that Gelt was another brother, but he wasn't home right now. He was at the magic school. She also explained that the initial appraisal was a common practice for noble children. It was done to check their aptitude for magic. If a child had magic potential, they would learn spells suited to them. If not, they would train in martial arts instead. This process was important because it helped decide how the family's successor would be trained. Theo then asked what would happen if Sieg had an aptitude for advanced level magic. Gelt, for example, had been forced to join the Magic Academy at the age of 5. The adults said it was to help him grow into a great magician, but most children who went there never came back. Gelt had cried a lot because he didn't want to leave his mother. That all happened because the appraiser revealed his magic attributes. Gilbert reassured Theo that this time he would protect Sieg no matter what. A baby born with advanced level magic would be taken to the magic school, and Sieg was afraid because he knew he had that aptitude. If the truth came out, his family would be heartbroken, and he would be forced to study alone. He had hoped for a peaceful life, but now he wondered if his bad luck was still following him, even in this world. He asked himself what he could do next. That night, Sieg was alone with a maid, trying to remove his element, but he couldn't. He had to do something about his advanced attribute by the next day. Just having one of these elements could cause trouble if he got caught, but having all of them could lead to more than just being locked up in magic school. On top of that, the suspicious keeper had mentioned that there was something special about him. Sieg knew he couldn't handle this alone, so he needed help. Suddenly, something appeared in front of him and called him its master. Sieg was startled. The strange being introduced itself as an explanation system or helper. It told him that anything he couldn't understand through appraisal would be explained by the system. In this world, people with appraisal eyes could sense abilities to some degree, but only a rare master with special appraisal eyes could see detailed information. Helper suggested that Sieg learn the concealment skill if he wanted to hide his status. Sieg asked how to use it, but the system told him that he hadn't acquired the skill yet. When Sieg asked how to learn it, the helper explained that, unlike magic, the ability wasn't tied to any attribute. However, there wasn't enough time. Learning the concealment skill on his own by tomorrow was impossible. Then, Helper reminded him that he still had the reincarnation blessing with 1,000 points. Sieg admitted that he didn't know how to use them. The system explained that with these points, he could gain useful skills without much effort. If he spent all 1,000 points, he could get the highest grade concealment skill, allowing him to hide from even the special appraisal eyes. Sieg decided to use the points immediately. However, Helper warned him that 1,000 points was a lot, and from now on, learning new abilities would take much more effort. Sieg thought about his family. He knew it was a big sacrifice, but he didn't care. Right now, his top priority was making sure his family, who loved him so much, wouldn't have to worry about him. The next day, Willie arrived at their home. Gilbert complained about how famous Willie was among the maids. Willie then greeted Leah and told her she was still beautiful. The jealous husband then warned him. Then Willie took Sieg's hand, asked if he was nervous, and introduced himself as Sieg's uncle. Willie used his appraisal ability to check Sieg's abilities. Meanwhile, Sieg silently prayed to be left in peace. Gilbert asked Willie if Sieg had any sign of the light or holy element. Willie replied that Sieg had aptitudes for fire, wind, earth, water, and void. An impressive combination, but he lacked any advanced aptitudes. Sieg felt relieved. After discussing with his helper, he decided not to have all possible attributes, even if they were weaker ones. Instead, he limited himself to 5. Light and dark elements seemed rare blessings. His appraisal eyes and other special abilities given by the keeper were hidden. Willie then told Leah that Sieg had natural resistance to poison, paralysis, darkness, curses, and other abnormal conditions. He had inherited these resistance skills from his mother. Leah felt overjoyed, and both of them were happy. Sieg didn't hide any inherited resistance abilities because he saw them as a precious gift from his mother. He made a note to thank his helper later for assisting him. Willie decided to check more details about Sieg's body and magic. From what he saw, he was sure Sieg would become someone remarkable. Suddenly, Willie noticed many wings appearing around Sieg. Gilbert, seeing Willie's reaction, asked what was wrong. Willie explained that Sieg might be one of the lucky ones. Gilbert was stunned. Willie revealed that when he used his appraisal eyes, a person's fortune appeared in the form of wings. This was the first time he had ever seen wings this huge. He had always believed that people loved by the gods known as the lucky ones only existed in fairy tales. Sieg was shocked. In his past life, he had only experienced bad luck, but now he had become someone special. Willie continued, saying that not only did Sieg have those wings, but he also had an enormous amount of magic power, even more than Willie had at birth. He called this a level beyond a prodigy. If this information became public, the Ministry of Magic would not remain silent. Sieg was even more surprised. This was beyond what he had expected. Although he was grateful for his abilities, he didn't want his family to go through any painful experiences because of them. Sieg wondered what would happen next. He looked at his luck stat and thought that the number was too high to be real. He didn't understand what it meant. Willie explained that luck was a gift from God to those he favored. He said there was a saying that if someone had the power to seize opportunities, they could even become a god. A lucky person was rare and full of mystery. The Ministry of Magic would surely try to experiment on Sieg. Gilbert became very sad. Sieg looked at him and thought no way, he never wanted his family to go through painful memories. But Leah was happy. She said she was proud to be the mother of such a talented child who was even loved by the gods. Leah then asked Gilbert to protect Sieg. Gilbert promised that he would. Gilbert told Willie that the real problem was announcing the results of Sieg's appraisal. Willie decided they would only reveal his magic element for now. He explained that nobles usually announce the results of their initial appraisals just to show off the prestige of their air element. However, Gilbert found it strange not to mention Sieg's magic power. Willie reassured him that no one would question it since the country's top knight, the vice knight, would be making the announcement. He knew his brother was well trusted by the people. Gilbert finally agreed. Sieg was impressed by how the atmosphere quickly calmed down. Leah then chose to keep Sieg's special power a secret from everyone else. Willie agreed, saying it would stay between the 5 of them. He realized there were 2 more people listening. Ariane and Theo had been hiding behind the door, eavesdropping since the appraisal began. Willie caught them and told them that listening to adult conversations was not a good habit. Ariane tried to take all the blame, but Theo also stepped in to take responsibility. Willie told them he wasn't angry. Ariane mentioned that the teachers at the magic school were very excited. They were expecting another special student. If Sieg had advanced elements, she would have tried to convince her father to announce it. Leah thanked them and assured them that their father would protect Sieg, so they didn't need to worry. Sieg was so happy that he cried tears of joy. Willie warned them not to tell anyone about what they had heard. They got scared and quickly agreed. Even Sieg felt nervous, thinking that Willie might be a scary person. Willie was amazed at how his brother had good kids, and Gilbert totally agreed. With the help of Sieg's uncle and others, only his magic elements were made public. The Ministry of Magic didn't take him away. A few months later, Sieg discovered that the bad luck he had in his previous life was actually a mistake. Helper explained that while looking through Sieg's past memories, he found that someone had deliberately changed his luck stat to an abnormally low value. Sieg had died in an accident in his previous life due to bad luck, but that seemed to be a way of balancing out his original, incredibly high luck. Helper guessed that the life and death guides had forced Sieg to be reincarnated to cover up the situation. He wasn't sure if it was a mistake or done on purpose, but he thought the unusually strong blessing and benefits were meant as compensation. He felt foolish for believing he was special, and cursed the keeper. Sieg then asked the Helper if he had been lucky from the start and if he was still connected to it in this life. Helper confirmed that it was true while acting like a game show host with a ringing bell. Around Sieg there were stacks of books. Helper asked why there were so many. Sieg explained that they were all beginner-level magic books. The maid seemed confused by the sight of a baby so focused on reading, but being surrounded by books made Sieg feel at ease. Whenever the maids left him alone for a short time, he decided to use his language mastery skill to learn magic. In his past life, Sieg had been a bookworm, so this was his chance to study magic properly. Over the past few months, he had learned a lot. He discovered that there were 12 elements of magic, and to use one, a person needed to have the matching element. Luckily, Sieg had all of them. The strength of magic depended on the user's magic power, but the most important part was visualization. If the image in the mind was unclear, the magic wouldn't work. The more detailed the visualization, the better the magic would perform. That was why even the same spell could look different for each person. Today, Sieg was finally going to try Luminance, a beginner-level light spell. Luminance created light in the darkness. The first step was to let magic flow through his body. As he focused, he felt warmth spread inside him. Then he pictured a dark road glowing with fireflies, just like in his past life. Suddenly, his room lit up. It felt like a dream. Sieg was thrilled and eager to learn more magic. Wanting to test his limits, he tried to visualize the bright lights of a theater. However, the light became too strong, nearly making him pass out. It was clear, he still had a long way to go. Just then, Gilbert arrived and was shocked. In another room, Sieg was also surprised. A maid was asking Leah how she was feeling, and she told her that she had calmed down. Leah was holding a photo of Gilbert and said that he was okay. Just then, Gilbert appeared, carrying Sieg in his arms. He told Leah that Sieg had been standing. The maid asked Gilbert not to speak rudely to Leah. Gilbert took a deep breath and calmed down before repeating that Sieg had stood up. He then placed Sieg on the ground and saw that he was actually standing. Sieg panicked, thinking he had been caught using magic, but he soon realized he was wrong. Instead of noticing the magic, his father was simply surprised that he could already stand. Gilbert then asked him to walk toward his mother. Sieg thought he wasn't ready to walk yet, but he also didn't want to disappoint his mother. With great effort, he took a few shaky steps toward Leah. After just 2 steps, he was already exhausted. Leah praised him, and Gilbert did too, saying he never expected Sieg to learn to walk so quickly. Gilbert held him so tightly that Sieg thought his neck was going to break. Butler Hans appeared behind Gilbert and asked him how long he planned to ignore his duties. His face looked angry as he told Gilbert to return. Leah thanked Gilbert for bringing Sieg to her. She then asked her maid, Anna, to bring some books from Sieg's room. Sieg felt very tired after using magic and walking. His mother told him to rest. She smiled and said she was really happy because he would turn 1 year old soon and was learning to walk very fast. Sieg looked at her and thought she seemed different today. She told him to live freely without feeling pressured to act like a noble. She knew he would face difficulties, but she hoped he wouldn't regret his choices. She wanted him to grow stronger and kinder than anyone else. Tears ran down her face as she promised to always be on his side. She kissed Sieg on the forehead and told him to remember the time they spent together. Suddenly, she collapsed. Anna arrived and was shocked to see Leah like that. Sieg was also frozen in shock. Somewhere else, a child was studying when someone told him he had received a letter. At first, he told them not to disturb him, but his expression changed when he heard the news. His mother had just passed away. After that, we could see Leah's tomb and the whole family was grieving. Albert, the eldest son, arrived to help with the family's problems. Willie told Gilbert that most of the funeral was finished and that he would take care of the remaining work. He asked Gilbert to rest because he hadn't slept for many days since Leah passed away. However, Gilbert said he wanted to stay with Leah until the very end and send her off himself. During the funeral speech, Sieg learned that Leah had suffered from an incurable disease. It was also said that it was a miracle she had been able to give birth to him. Even though he was the closest to her, he never knew she was sick. Leah always looked beautiful and full of life, never showing any signs of pain. Sieg regretted not using his appraisal skill on her. If he had, he would have realized she was ill, and with his special blessing he might have learned magic that could have cured her. Albert, who was holding Ariane, noticed Theo walking somewhere and asked where he was going. Theo said he was going to greet Gelt because he had loved their mother more than anyone. When Theo opened the door, he saw a maid trying to stop Gelt. Theo tried to speak to him, but Gelt suddenly attacked Sieg, blaming him for their mother's death. Anna held Sieg tightly as he used a light wall to block Gelt's attack. However, Gelt's thunder spear still managed to injure them. Gelt tried to finish Sieg off, but Albert jumped just in time to stop him. Sieg and Anna lay on the ground, wounded. Theo said he and Ariane would use healing magic and told someone to call their father and uncle. Albert held Gelt down and demanded to know why he was doing this. Gelt shouted that if Sieg had never been born, their mother wouldn't have died. Albert told him to stop saying such foolish things. He explained that because of Sieg, their mother's health had improved, giving her enough time to create final memories with her children. This only happened because of Sieg. Even after hearing this, Gelt remained angry and still blamed Sieg for their mother's death. Willie arrived and told Albert to step away. He used his magic to lock Gelt in place and even placed cuffs on his hands. Willie commended Albert for the good reaction. Gilbert also arrived. Willie then used water healing to heal Anna and Sieg. He also praised Theo and Ariane for handling the situation well. Willie asked Anna if she was okay, and she assured him that she was fine. He then informed Gilbert that Sieg was safe, along with Ariane and Theo. Willie suggested that Anna should rest, but she insisted on continuing her work without a break. Ariane turned to Gelt and asked why he had done such terrible things. She told him that their mother's death had nothing to do with Sieg. However, Gelt claimed that they were all being deceived. Despite this, Ariane remained by Sieg's side and demanded that Gelt promise never to do this again. Gelt refused, still holding on to his resentment. Ariane then asked Gilbert to keep Gelt away from Sieg. She warned Gelt that if he ever did something like this again, she would never forgive him. Willie told Gilbert that they needed to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Gelt watched them and wondered why everything always revolved around Sieg. Ever since his birth, Sieg had been the center of attention. Gelt was always the one left out, ignored, and forgotten. Sieg, who had always been by their mother's side, shared her hair and eyes. Everyone loved him. Gelt believed that Sieg had stolen his place and their mother's love. That was why he could never forgive him. After that, Sieg finally woke up. His siblings felt very happy to see him awake. Sieg thought back and believed that his older brother Gelt had hit him. He remembered the way Gelt looked at him during the funeral. That hateful and terrifying gaze was burned into his mind. Theo and Ariane apologized to Sieg because they couldn't stop Gelt. But Sieg didn't think they were truly bad. Willie told them he had been using surveillance magic, so if Gelt ever got close to Sieg again, it would alert either him or Gilbert. He told the two not to worry further. Ariane then promised to protect Sieg no matter what, but soon after, she fell asleep. Willie explained that she had gotten tired from using healing magic. He was also relieved that Theo had held back. Theo understood that none of this was Sieg's fault. In fact, because of Sieg, they were able to spend warm and precious moments with their mother before she passed away. Willie felt the same way and gave Sieg a reassuring pat. Sieg never knew they thought of him like that, especially since he felt like he hadn't done anything. Willie then told Theo and Ariane to rest as he would stay with Sieg. Before resting, Theo thanked Willie for saving Sieg. Willie simply smiled in response. After that, Willie entered another room and praised Gilbert for his work. He then asked Gilbert about Gelt. Gilbert replied that no matter what Willie said, Gelt wouldn't listen. He was filled with hate and resentment towards Sieg. Gilbert explained that their father had learned about the situation and was willing to take Gelt in. However, now that things had turned out this way, Gilbert couldn't allow Gelt to enter the mansion again. It was a sad decision, but he felt it was best to leave Gelt with their father. Willie then told Gilbert that during the incident, he had used his appraisal skill on Gelt and discovered that Gelt wasn't brainwashed. This meant that someone might have spread false information or that some kind of mind-contaminating magic was involved. The magic school seemed suspicious. Gilbert agreed but wondered if these were truly Gelt's real feelings. Willie doubted that a child could cause so much trouble alone and suggested searching inside the magic school first. There had to be something hidden there. Gilbert immediately decided to go, but his legs gave out. Willie told him that both his body and heart had reached their limit, so he needed to rest. Willie volunteered to handle the situation and promised to find out the truth. Gilbert apologized to Leah for being unable to do anything. Later on the balcony, Willie looked around with anger. He called himself worthless because he had failed to protect anything. He warned the person responsible to be ready for punishment. After this incident, everyone changed, and Sieg also changed. To protect his family, he trained hard, even as a child. He read books to learn magic and become stronger, determined to have no regrets. He always remembered his mother. 4 years later, Sieg went to Theo and asked him to take him along to defeat monsters. Theo was shocked when Sieg told him that he knew about his secret work with the Adventurers Guild. Sieg also mentioned that Theo was meeting someone named Nikolai that day to defeat some monsters. Stunned, Theo asked how he knew. Sieg couldn't share that he could see this information using his appraisal eyes, which allowed him to read the status details he had gathered earlier with the help of Helper. It seemed that Theo planned to defeat the monsters alongside an adventurer named Nikolai. However, Theo told Sieg it was too soon for him to get involved. He warned him not to beg because he would never take along a kid who couldn't defeat a monster, even if that kid was his little brother. In response, Sieg used magic right in front of him, proving that he could fight. Theo was shocked. Sieg shouldn't have been able to handle such magic yet, but Sieg confidently told him that he could do even more. He had learned through practice that simply using magic wasn't enough to increase its power. We saw a flashback of Sieg training to become stronger. He said that even though he had a lot of magic power, he couldn't use advanced skills, and his magic power wasn't increasing. His helper explained that this was because he wasn't using his level properly. In this world, people naturally absorbed the power released when they defeated monsters and turned it into their own strength. The helper used Sieg's status to show how this worked in the level and experience system. At level 1, Sieg's magic power was 100. If he didn't increase his level by defeating monsters, his magic power would stay the same, and he wouldn't be able to use stronger magic. That was why he wanted Theo to take him along. Theo asked why he was in such a hurry. Sieg explained that if someone precious to him was about to die, he wouldn't be able to do anything to help. Tragedies could happen at any time, and even if it was just a little, he wanted to get stronger as fast as possible. After hearing Sieg's words, Theo remembered the time when Gelt lost control. He used his wind magic to send a message to Hans asking for a carriage and another to Nikolai. Theo agreed to take Sieg to fight monsters, but only this once. Sieg was overjoyed. Theo reminded him not to wander off, and Sieg promised to be careful. On the way, Theo told Sieg that he would let him fight the white rabbit in the forest. Sieg asked about the white rabbit, and Theo explained that it was the monster he would have to defeat during the White Hunt in a few months. The White Hunt was a tradition where a noble's child fought a monster for the first time. Theo said they could think of today's battle as practice for that event. He also mentioned that they were lucky because Ariane had gone to a tea ceremony. Otherwise, she would never have allowed Sieg to fight a monster. When they reached their destination, Theo asked Hans to pick them up at the scheduled time and to keep everything a secret. Then, Theo warned Sieg not to use magic in front of Nikolai, and Sieg agreed. Sieg held Theo's hand since he was only 5 years old, but in his mind, he felt like an adult. Seeing this, Theo felt happy and decided that he would protect Sieg. As they arrived at the wild forest, Sieg was amazed by its beauty. The entire forest was white because of a unique magic power. Many monsters lived there, but most were weak enough for even beginner adventurers to fight, making it a good place for practice. However, the forest was connected to the Hush Forest, where dangerous monsters roamed. Theo warned Sieg not to go too far. Soon Nikolai arrived. He told Theo that he was surprised by the sudden change in their hunting location. When he saw Sieg, he called him Chibi. Sieg greeted him politely and introduced himself as Theo's younger brother. Nikolai said it was a great meeting and praised the Abel family for their good upbringing. As he spoke, he held Sieg's head tightly and roughed his hair. Theo asked Nikolai not to be too rough with Sieg. Sieg thought Nikolai seemed energetic and didn't feel like a bad person. Using his appraisal eyes, Sieg saw that Nikolai was at level 17 with a D rank as an adventurer. His beginner elements were water and light, and he was 3 years older than Theo. He also seemed like a magic swordsman. Seeing this, Sieg wondered if everyone around here was naturally like him. Nikolai asked Theo if the plan for the day had changed because of the kid. Theo explained that he brought Sieg along to prepare him for next year's hunt. Sieg then told Nikolai that Theo had changed the plan because of him. He was the one who had forced Theo to let him join the hunt. To make up for it, Sieg decided to give Nia all the monster loot in exchange for cooperating with him. Nikolai praised Sieg, saying that for a kid, he knew how to negotiate well. Impressed, Nikolai offered to help with Sieg's training. He lifted Sieg onto his shoulder, and together, they set off to search for prey. As they walked, Sieg asked Theo why he was secretly hunting monsters with Nikolai. Nikolai explained that Theo was helping him pay his medical bills. He revealed that his family used to be nobles, but they had lost their wealth and were now called fallen nobles. While Nikolai could earn money for himself, his little sister had a serious illness, and he couldn't afford her treatment alone. That was why Theo was helping him. Theo added that he was also using this opportunity to practice his swordsmanship. Sieg apologized to Nikolai, saying they could have chosen a better hunting spot where Nikolai could earn more money. However, Nikolai told him not to worry about it. Just then they spotted their prey. Nikolai asked Sieg if he was ready, but Sieg told them to wait. His goal was to reach level 3 that day, and he also wanted to practice using his appraisal eyes while fighting. When he used them, he learned that the white rabbit was weak to fire, flame, dark, and cure elements. Its weak spot was just below the horn on its head. Nikolai suggested they surround the rabbit to prevent it from escaping. Sieg said he would attack from where he stood, but Nikolai thought the distance was too far. He assumed Sieg didn't know how to use magic properly yet. However, Sieg quickly cast a fireball and took down the rabbit in one shot. Nikolai was shocked, not just because of the fireball, but because Sieg had changed its shape, something that required a lot of magic power. To cover for Sieg, Theo quickly made an excuse, saying that the training methods of the Abel family were different. Theo told Nikolai that when he was a kid, he could do the same thing. Sieg thought one wasn't enough to level up, so he wanted to hunt more to increase Nikolai's reward at the same time. He asked Theo to look for more white rabbits. Theo used his wing magic called Wind Scout to search for them. He found a small group of rabbits but also sensed something strange nearby. Nalia grabbed Sieg and ran to hunt more rabbits. After killing some, Sieg finally leveled up. Theo didn't understand what leveling up meant, so Nikolai asked if he meant getting stronger. Sieg almost forgot that he was the only one who knew about the concept of levels. His magic power had increased a lot, and he could finally use one of his special blessings, Advanced Growth. However, he wasn't happy because his magic power had only gone up by 50. Even so, it was still nearly twice as much as Nikolai's. Nikolai praised Sieg for killing 8 white rabbits by hitting their weak spots. He asked if everyone from the Abel family was this strong. Theo explained that it was because their father was a great man. Sieg knew his brother would soon run out of excuses, so he had decided to hold back. That meant he couldn't reach level 3 that day. Sieg then told Nikolai that their carriage would arrive any minute to pick them up. Suddenly, a group of goblins jumped at them, but instead of attacking, they just ran past. Nicholas explained that goblins usually attacked when someone got too close. Theo noticed that those goblins were injured, which was strange because White Forest goblins were supposed to be the strongest monsters. Yet, they were running away from something. Out of nowhere, a huge tree came flying toward them, forcing them to split up. It turned out the goblins weren't running away, they had set a trap to separate them. Nikolai and Sieg ended up together, while Theo was left alone on the other side. Nikolai pointed out that goblins didn't have the intelligence to plan such a trick. But then, Theo saw a massive monster standing in front of him. It had come from the Forest of Silence. Realizing the danger, Theo shouted for Nikolai to take Sieg and run, warning that if they stayed, they would all die. The monster was a goblin general. Theo felt afraid because a B-rank monster shouldn't have been there. He recalled that the White Forest and the Silent Forest had different levels of magic energy, and a magic barrier separated them. Because of that, it should have been impossible for this goblin to be here. The goblin was also injured, and the armor it once wore was missing. Theo guessed that it had lost a battle over territory in the Silent Forest and went berserk. However, there was also a chance that it had forced its way through the barrier. The goblin general roared and ordered smaller goblins to attack Sieg and Nikolai. Theo barely dodged the goblin general's attack. Even though it was wounded, a B-rank monster with berserk state was still very hard to defeat. Theo couldn't figure out how to beat it. Though impossible, he would defeat it for the sake of protecting Sieg. Meanwhile, Sieg and Nikolai were fighting against the normal goblins. Nikolai could handle one goblin on his own, but there were too many of them. Sieg used fireballs, defeating many goblins at once. Nikolai was shocked because he wasn't strong enough to do the same. Sieg was exhausted. His level had reached 3, allowing him to use advanced magic, but his stamina was too low. If he used it now, he might faint. Even if he stayed awake, moving would be difficult. This meant he had only one chance to defeat the Goblin General. Just as the cornered Theo was about to use magic, ice spikes suddenly shot up from the ground, injuring Theo. Sieg tried to rush to his brother, but Nikolai stopped him, injuring himself in the process. It was their turn to face the Goblin General. Sieg used his appraisal eyes, which revealed the general's weakness, its forehead. However, it had a helmet magic immunity. If Sieg didn't do something about that, defeating the monster would be nearly impossible. He didn't want to lose his brother, so he had to act fast. Theo lay on the ground, remembering the day he failed to protect Sieg from Gelt. He couldn't let that happen again. Pushing himself up, he used a wind net to stop the huge monster from moving. Sieg and Nikolai saw Theo holding back the Goblin General. Theo then gave Nikolai a signal. Nikolai quickly created a light wall to block the attack, but he warned that he couldn't keep it up for long. Theo then used his self-taught wind magic to vanish from where he stood. He reappeared and unleashed his spell, Spreading Wind Needle. His attack was sharp and precise, like an assassin's. Nikolai was impressed and said he always knew Theo was incredible. But before Theo could respond, he collapsed. The Goblin General was still standing, but this time his helmet was gone. Sieg quickly turned to Nikolai and told him to throw him toward the general's head. The weak spot was the eyeball. If he could hit it with strong magic, they could win. Sieg insisted he had the power to do it. Nikolai asked what he meant, but Sieg pleaded, saying he couldn't let his family die. Understanding the urgency, Nikolai lifted Sieg and threw him toward the general. While soaring through the air, Sieg created a huge flame spear. He knew he couldn't waste the chance Theo had given him. With all his strength, he hurled the spear straight through the Goblin General's head. The attack worked. The monster was finally defeated. Nikolai stood in shock. Sieg began to fall, but Theo caught him just in time. Sieg reassured Theo that he was fine, but Theo looked upset, feeling like he hadn't protected him well enough. Sieg smiled and told Theo that because of him, they were able to win. Hearing this, Theo finally felt relieved and happy. Sieg was safe this time. Nikolai used healing magic to help them recover. He never thought they would actually be able to defeat the Goblin General. Curious, he asked Theo how he knew the general's weakness and how he managed to use such strong magic. But Theo simply said that to protect Sieg, he couldn't answer that question. Nikolai smiled and said he wouldn't ask again. He also promised not to tell anyone about what happened that day. However, in return, he wanted the Ash, a magic crystal that only dropped from high-ranking monsters. It was worth a lot of money, and with it he could take his sister to a better doctor. Sieg agreed and let him take the Ash. Even in a normal situation, Sieg's encounter with the Goblin General was incredibly bad luck. Sieg believed he was still carrying bad luck from his past life. However, Helper told him that this actually happened because he was lucky. Helper explained that Sieg needed to level up, learn advanced magic, and receive a bigger reward for Nikolai. Normally, achieving all of this at once would have been impossible. But because of his luck, a monster that wasn't supposed to be there appeared, creating a rare opportunity. This was a chance given to the lucky one. Sieg remembered Willie telling him that he was the lucky one, loved by God. He wondered if this kind of luck would continue to affect him and those around him. However, he realized that if he could take advantage of these chances, he could save the people he wanted to protect, because he had the power to do so. Meanwhile, Theo asked Sieg to wait until his wounds healed. He also planned to ask Hans to keep things a secret again. Nearby, a small monster was hiding in the bushes. This small tiger-looking cub had ended up there after a surprising incident. Some people had captured it and were taking it away in a carriage to sell it. But suddenly a Goblin General appeared and destroyed the carriage. In the chaos, the little tiger got injured. A few months later, Sieg was at the White Hunt, even where a noble kid was fighting a monster for the first time. Ariane felt happy because Sieg was hitting the White Rabbit's weak spots perfectly. She praised him. Albert was shocked. He knew Sieg could use magic, but he had no idea he had this much power. Willie was pleased and pointed out that Sieg could control his magic well. He assumed that Sieg could use even stronger magic but had lowered its power to make it seem normal. Sieg realized he couldn't hide his true abilities from Willie. Gilbert was surprised when he learned that Sieg had left the mansion. He also noted that with this kind of magic, Sieg could go on a small adventure without any trouble. Sieg thanked his father. However, Ariane was angry at Theo for taking Sieg along to fight monsters. Hans was the one who told everyone that Sieg had gone out with Theo to fight monsters. Because of this, Theo and Sieg were severely scolded. Gilbert explained that after Theo reported finding the corpse of a demon that wasn't supposed to be in the White Forest, the destroyed magic barriers had already been taken care of. At that moment, Albert was watching over everything, hoping no new problems would arise. Sieg saw his father and thought about how fast he worked. The one who had actually defeated the monster was Theo, along with Sieg and Nikolai, but no one knew about it. As a reward for his hard work, Ariane gave Sieg a hug. Just then, Sieg noticed something in the bushes. He saw a shadow he had never seen before. Something felt strange and he wanted to find out what it was. Without hesitation, he ran off, saying he was going to explore. Ariane didn't want him to go alone, but Albert assured her that Sieg would be fine in the White Forest and that they could track his location using magic. Ariane calmed down for a moment, but then she remembered when Gelt attacked Sieg. That thought worried her, so she ran after him. Albert had hoped Ariane would relax after seeing Sieg, but Willie pointed out that she had been like this ever since the incident with Gelt. Theo mentioned that when Sieg was with him, he had been hesitant but still allowed Sieg a little freedom. Ariane couldn't stand the idea of Sieg being alone, but she also knew that children were naturally curious even if they got hurt. Willie said they had no choice but to wait since Hecha couldn't be healed by any magic. Then Willie told Gilbert that he and Theo would go check the magic barrier, as he didn't feel right leaving all the work to Albert, who had gone there first. After that, Sieg finally found the little monster. This monster was called White Tiger. Its magic abilities were thunder and ice, both advanced elements. The tiger was badly injured and near death. It was scared and wondered why Sieg was following it. The tiger didn't want him to come any closer. Sieg was shocked when he realized he could understand the tiger's language. That meant the tiger was a sacred beast. He remembered reading in a book that the white tiger was an endangered and protected species. Many people never got to see one in their entire lives. He looked at the tiger's wound and quickly realized that it had been caused by high-level magic. The tiger had likely escaped from being smuggled or hunted by powerful wizards. However, Sieg didn't think about any of that for long. He just wanted to heal it. He raised his hand to use healing magic, but the tiger bit him. Even though it hurt, he didn't stop and used light heal to heal the tiger. The tiger was shocked. Sieg told it that it was now healed. Hearing that, the tiger became happy and was no longer afraid. Sieg petted the tiger and thought it was really cute, with soft, fluffy fur. He figured the tiger must have been scared for a long time. He praised it for surviving until now. The tiger, feeling comforted, happily hugged Sieg. He told him he was a good person and that he would always be grateful. Just then, an unknown magic to Sieg activated. Helper appeared and told Sieg that a contract with the white tiger had been established. Sieg was confused and asked what that meant. Helper explained that he and the white tiger had formed a blood contract. When Sieg asked what that was, Helper explained that a blood contract connected two beings by mixing their blood. This ancient contract method could only be used with high-grade magical beasts and sacred beasts. Sieg didn't remember doing anything like that. But then he noticed that the tiger was still licking his blood. Ariane appeared and hugged Sieg from behind. She mentioned that Sieg suddenly felt heavier. It was because he was holding on to the white tiger. Ariane got scared. Sieg then told his father that he had picked up a baby black cat, but Albert pointed out that its fur was too white. Sieg tried to explain by saying that if someone ate something from the White Forest, they could turn white too. Albert didn't believe him, and reminded him that the White Forest was not a place where black cats lived. Sieg quickly tried to cover it up again, saying that the white tiger must have gotten lost and wandered in when the magical barrier broke. He thought to himself that he couldn't admit the truth, that this rare and protected species had entered his father's territory and he had made a contract with it without permission. Sieg realized this was a serious problem both politically and as a noble. If the white tiger stayed with him while using concealment magic, he could hide the fact that it was a rare species. Sieg then asked Albert if he could take care of the tiger. Ariane immediately rejected the idea, saying it was too dangerous to raise a magical beast. Sieg argued that the tiger had been badly injured when he found it, so it wouldn't survive on its own. Ariane reminded him that the tiger had just bitten him. Sieg explained that it only happened because he had scared the tiger. Ariane then turned to Gilbert, asking him not to allow Sieg to keep the beast. But Sieg stood his ground. Gilbert asked Sieg to swear that he would take full responsibility for raising and protecting the tiger until the very end. With confidence, Sieg promised he would. Hearing this, Gilbert allowed him to raise the tiger. Ariane still objected, but Gilbert ignored her and even asked her to help Sieg take care of the tiger. Sieg thanked his father for trusting him. Then Gilbert asked Sieg if he was the one who had healed the tiger. When Sieg said yes, Gilbert felt proud that his son could use healing magic at such a young age. Ariane finally gave up arguing since their father had given permission, but she still didn't trust the beast. She decided to keep a close watch on it until she was sure Sieg was safe. Sieg didn't like this. Now he wouldn't be able to move freely under his obsessed sister's prying eyes. The white tiger tried to act cute in front of Ariane to show he wasn't dangerous, but Ariane refused to be fooled by its innocent act. Sieg stood outside and said he could now use advanced magic. However, he couldn't train properly because Ariane kept watching him all the time. He needed to find a way to get some time alone. While he was thinking, the white tiger asked him why he was in such a rush. Sieg explained that dangerous things would happen to his family because of him. To protect everyone, he had to become stronger. The tiger then asked if he was scared and told him to rub his fur. As Sieg rubbed him, a small smile appeared on his face. Ariane watched them from a distance. She admitted to herself that the tiger didn't seem bad, but she also knew that sometimes unexpected people could bring harm to the things they cared about the most. She thought about the recent attack on Sieg and wanted to believe the tiger wasn't dangerous. However, she still felt uneasy. She decided that if nothing bad happened that night, she would accept that the tiger wasn't a threat. Later that night, Sieg sighed in relief. Somehow he had managed to get through the day. He was certain Ariane wouldn't come when it was time to sleep, so this was his chance to practice advanced magic. But just as he was about to start, she suddenly appeared. Sieg was surprised and asked why she was there since it was already past her bedtime. Ariane told him that was exactly why she had come. She was going to sleep with him. Sieg was stunned by his current situation. He had already gotten permission from his father to keep the white tiger after saving it, but Ariane was still worried that the tiger might hurt him. She kept watching over him constantly, but he never expected her to go this far. If she stayed with him, he wouldn't be able to train. Since things had come to this, he decided to use the technique he had learned when defeating the goblin general. He had no other choice. Using spatial movement, he carefully teleported away without waking her up. When he reappeared elsewhere, he felt relieved. He couldn't use this technique in front of others, and this was his first time trying it. Luckily, it worked. Now, he could go to the White Forest to train. Just then, the tiger woke up. The beast told Sieg not to go. Sieg quickly hushed him, afraid that Ariane would wake up. The beast then said that if Sieg left alone, Ariane would be sad. Sieg reassured him that he would return before she woke up. He also told the beast to rest since he hadn't fully recovered yet. Sieg was determined. He had to become stronger to protect his family. With that, he used spatial movement again and disappeared into the night. The white tiger then looked at Ariane and then ran around in circles while thinking. In the end, it jumped out of the window and followed him. Sieg was inside the White Forest, completely exhausted. Using high-level magic drained a lot of his energy, but he was used to pushing himself to the limit. He had been training alone for a long time to prepare for the upcoming white hunt. He cast an ice spell called Ice Cluster, and it worked. He felt overjoyed because now he believed he could use other advanced magic as well. Encouraged, he decided to keep going. Next, he tried one last advanced spell, Thunder Magic. As he cast it, the magic took the shape of Gelt, which frightened him. The magic tried to attack him. Panicking, Sieg destroyed the spell. At that moment, he realized that magic in this world was deeply connected to the caster's imagination. When he had used thunder magic, his old trauma from that time caused it to go out of control. He collapsed to the ground, having used too much magic. Helper warned him that using excessive magic quickly drained physical strength. If he kept going, he would pass out. Helper urged him to stay strong, but Sieg was already losing consciousness. As he was about to faint, he remembered a promise he made to the beast, that he would return before Ariane woke up. He called himself weak and questioned why he was like this. Sieg believed he had special power, but he couldn't even save his mother. After seeing Theo get hurt, he had sworn to always be strong. And yet the trauma of being beaten by Gelt had never left his mind. He was terrified that his own weakness would crush him. With these thoughts in his head, he lost consciousness while the white tiger was rushing to his rescue. The next morning, everyone was searching for Sieg. The maid told Theo that they had already checked the main building, but he wasn't there. Theo had searched another building with Wind Scout, but still, there was no sign of Sieg. Even the Beast Child was missing. They called Gilbert to help widen the search. Ariane started to worry that the magical beast had done something to Sieg. The maid then mentioned that someone had seen the magical beast. Ariane immediately asked if Sieg was with it, but the maid shook her head. However, she added that the beast had been seen running outside the mansion. It was possible that it had headed toward the White Forest. Since it was late at night, the maid hadn't been sure of what she saw, so she didn't report it earlier. Hearing this, Ariane quickly realized that the beast must have been chasing after Sieg. Without wasting any time, she ran toward the White Forest. On her way, she saw the beast returning, carrying Sieg in its arms. Ariane rushed toward them and took Sieg into her arms. He was still breathing, but he was unconscious. The magical beast looked sad and licked Sieg's hand. Holding both of them close, Ariane promised that she would definitely save Sieg. After some time, Sieg opened his eyes and saw Ariane healing him. She was very happy to see him wake up and told him she had been really worried about him. Gilbert was also happy that Sieg was back, but he was angry because Sieg had gone to White Forest alone. Ariane still believed that someone else had taken Sieg to White Forest, but Sieg told her that he went there by himself. Gilbert asked why he had gone alone. Sieg knew it would take hours for a child to reach White Forest, so he couldn't tell them the truth. Instead, he said he used movement magic and had been training advanced level magic. However, he was hiding a lot from them, and he worried that he might cause even more trouble for Gilbert. While Sieg thought about what to say, Gilbert made his decision. He said he couldn't let this go, so as punishment, Sieg was not allowed to leave the mansion for 2 weeks. Surveillance magic would also be used to watch him. Sieg understood. Gilbert then said that Sieg was a smart boy who always thought about his family. He knew that Sieg hadn't left to do anything bad. Whenever Sieg hid something, it was always for his family's sake. Gilbert reassured him, saying that no one in their family was weak. Sieg didn't have to carry everything alone, he should remember to rely on his family. Sieg thought about it and realized Gilbert was right. His family wasn't weak. He had seen that many times before. He didn't have to handle everything alone. Finally, he told them that he had been training his magic alone because he didn't want to shock people with how strong it was. He believed that if he didn't become strong, people he loved, like his mother, would disappear. He had been scared. Gilbert was shocked because Sieg still remembered the time he spent with his mother. Ariane tried to calm him down, telling him that no one would leave him again. Gilbert hugged them both and promised that he would protect everyone. Later, we see Sieg lying on his bed and feeling emotional. He thought it was his first time to cry in front of others. However, his brothers returned from reporting the incident and saw him. Feeling embarrassed, Sieg realized that after telling them everything, he felt relieved. He had always wanted to be strong for his family, but deep down, he also wanted someone to rely on. He decided not to do anything reckless that would make his loved ones sad. He then thanked the White Tiger for saving him. The White Tiger told Sieg that he liked him, which was why he saved him. As a reward, he wanted Sieg to pet him. Sieg began petting Tiger, but suddenly realized that he had never given this beast a name. His full name was Siegbert, but everyone called him Sieg. So he decided to name the tiger Haku. Haku was overjoyed. They both agreed to take care of each other since they were now partners. Meanwhile, in the Abel family's main building, Gilbert was deep in thought. Sieg had started to remember the time he spent with his mother, which was good, but to Gilbert it was also a painful memory. Then he realized that he had done nothing for Sieg until now. Sieg's magical abilities and intelligence had grown so much that he was no longer seen as a child. No other child in the history of the Abel family had been this gifted. Just as he was about to speak something about Sieg, Albert and Willie arrived. Albert reported that clear magical ash had been found in White Forest. Gilbert asked for the results, and Albert explained that for the past few months, the magic crystal ash from White Forest had been analyzed. They had identified the source. It came from the Goblin General. It seemed that the goblins had broken through the magical barrier from the Silent Forest into the White Forest. Willie then mentioned that the biggest question was who could defeat such a powerful monster. From the last monster hunt, Willie and Gilbert suspected that Sieg was the one who had defeated it. Albert was shocked and refused to believe it. Gilbert pointed out that when Theo reported finding magic crystal ash, he had been hiding his wounds. Someone as strong as Theo wouldn't normally get injured in White Forest, which made the situation suspicious. Albert then asked if Theo was the one who saved Sieg from the monsters. Willie admitted that it was a possibility. Gilbert ordered them to erase any traces showing that Sieg was the one who defeated the monster, as a way to protect him. Albert then mentioned that because magic crystal ash had appeared in the market, a rumor had started among adventurers. The story claimed that a brave warrior had defeated a high-ranking monster. The tale had spread quickly. However, Albert and his team had already spread false information, saying that an elite knight had killed the monster instead. The seller of the magic crystal ash was actually Theo's friend, who had been with him at the time. Thanks to their careful planning, they kept the source a secret. Albert was able to handle the situation peacefully. Willie praised him, saying he expected nothing less from a promising member of the First Order. He then explained that the magic crystal ash had already been bought for research by the Magic Brigade's 3rd Magic Unit, which he was part of. They were conducting an experiment on the new teleportation stone under national orders. Willie planned to use these materials completely. Gilbert apologized to Albert for the trouble, but Albert said it was no problem since he did it all for his little brother. Willie then mentioned that Sieg now had advanced magic abilities and a stronger magical nature compared to Gelt, who was different. However, Sieg had not been seen in public or become a topic of discussion. They wanted to keep Sieg's unique abilities a secret from the Ministry of Magic and the Magic School for now. Gilbert wanted Sieg to live freely without being tied down by anything, which was also Leah's wish. Gilbert pointed out that Sieg was not an ordinary child. As his magic grew stronger, he also became smarter. The fact that Sieg had managed to go to the White Forest alone in such a short time was impressive. Gilbert wondered if Sieg had somehow gotten his hands on a transference stone. Willie explained that magic-infused stones were rare and expensive. If someone used a magic-infused glass stone, they could release the magic sealed inside it. Willie was certain that Sieg had learned teleportation spells or something similar. He also saw this as a great chance to observe Sieg's progress. Albert then shyly reminded his father that he had not seen Sieg at White Hunt because he had been investigating the magic barrier. He asked if there was a way he could see what had happened. Gilbert then revealed that he had used a projection stone to secretly take pictures of Sieg during the White Hunt. Now they were looking at Sieg's images. The next day, Sieg told Willie that he was very strong. Willie replied that he still had a long way to go. However, Sieg used his appraisal skills and saw everything clearly. Willie was at level 60, had many different types of magic including advanced ones, and all his stats were much higher than Sieg's. Sieg felt happy because he was learning from his uncle, so he decided to give his best in training. Unfortunately, he couldn't use advanced magic in front of Willie. At the same time, Willie was also observing Sieg. He noticed that Sieg's magic power had grown a lot. He believed that one day Sieg would surpass him at an incredible speed. Just then, Haku returned with a tree branch. Sieg praised Haku and introduced him to his uncle. He told Willie that the tiger's name was Haku. Willie used his appraisal skill to check Haku and confirmed that despite appearances, Haku was actually a black cat. Willie had never seen a black cat with such bright white fur before. He also found out that Haku had both lightning and ice magic. Willie realized that Haku had great potential. Sieg felt happy because Haku's concealment ability was working properly. However, Willie noticed something strange about Haku's magic flow. He asked for permission to touch Haku, and after checking closely, found a faint trace of magical energy. He explained that it was called magic color, a kind of lingering magical trace left behind after using advanced spells. As long as it remained, it would block the proper flow of magic. Sieg became worried and asked if the healing spell he used had failed. Willie told him that a complicated spell had been cast on Haku. It was a curse. Sieg checked Haku's stats again and saw that cursed was clearly written there. He had been too distracted earlier to notice it. Sieg assumed that it happened because he had used healing magic carelessly. Willie reassured him that it wasn't his fault. Hidden curses were often overlooked even by skilled magic users. This was a type of harassment magic, something used by wicked people. Willie took some of Haku's fur and swore that he would make the criminals responsible feel the same pain. He then explained that if the curse wasn't removed, Haku would never be able to use magic again. Sieg quickly asked if there was any way to fix it. Willie told him that a powerful divine spell called Holy Purge could remove curses of different magic types. However, Willie admitted that he couldn't use sacred magic. Sieg realized that this was an advanced spell he hadn't learned yet. He knew he could master it in the future, but right now, he needed a solution for Haku. Then he remembered something Siegbert had told him, to rely on his family. Sieg told Willie that he knew someone who could help. They explained everything to Ariane, who was shocked by how cruel the curse was. Sieg then mentioned that Ariane had recently learned holy magic and asked if she could use it to heal Haku. Ariane said she still didn't have enough magic power to use holy purification. She felt sorry because she couldn't heal Haku. Willie tried to comfort her, telling her that very few people could use holy magic at her age. She then showed them a holy purification stone. She explained that when her mother was still alive, she had ordered it from the Magic City state of Lin. Back then, Ariane could only use light magic. Wanting to help her mother, she worked hard to master holy magic. But no matter how much she tried, her power wasn't strong enough. By the time she finally got the stone, it was already too late. Now she wanted to use the stone to help Haku. But Haku looked sad and refused. This stone was precious to Ariane, and Haku didn't want her to use it on her. Ariane misunderstood and thought Haku was rejecting her because she didn't like her. Sieg explained that Haku refused because the stone was important to Ariane. Haku didn't want it to disappear, but Ariane insisted. She had wanted to apologize to Haku for a long time. She felt bad for doubting her and also wanted to thank her for saving Sieg. As Ariane held up the stone, it started glowing. Haku suddenly felt warm and cozy. Willie noticed that the magic flow had returned to normal. Sieg thanked his sister for her help. Willie then asked Haku to copy him and use ice magic. When Haku tried, she successfully created ice leaves. She was overjoyed that she could finally use magic. Snow covered the ground, and Sieg excitedly said he could build a snowman. Everyone started playing in the snow, so Willie decided to delay their training session. Just then, a fairy-like girl appeared nearby. She cheerfully said she wanted to play with Sieg too. Sieg and Haku trained their magic together while Willie watched over them. He praised them for improving their control and teamwork. Both of them felt happy, especially since Willie highly praised Haku. Afterward, Willie told them to keep practicing for the rest of the day because he had to meet Siegbert. Sieg thanked him for his guidance, and Willie gave a faint smile as he looked at his nephew. In Siegert's office, Willie mentioned that he had been teaching Sieg and the others earlier. Siegbert asked how Sieg was doing, and Willie expressed his amazement. Even though Sieg's house arrest had been lifted, Willie continued teaching him magic and was impressed by his knowledge and ambition. He was especially fascinated by Sieg's magical imagery and wondered where his ideas came from. He even joked about wanting to take a peek inside Sieg's mind. However, Siegbert told him to stop, reminding him that his son was not a research subject. Willie explained that he wanted Sieg to focus on mana control for now, so he could interact freely with the outside world. Siegbert was pleased to hear that. Willie also shared something surprising. Haku was a rare black cat variant with both lightning and ice attributes. Siegbert found it hard to believe, but Willie confirmed it. However, he also pointed out that Haku had magic color, leading him to suspect she had been poached. He had heard rumors about the imperial family secretly hunting and capturing holy beasts for illegal auctions. Willie also discovered tracking magic on Haku. He removed it and left it deep inside the Forest of Silence. Amused, he wondered how the poachers were handling the situation now. When Gilbert asked if he had placed it in the innermost part of the forest, Willie smiled wickedly and playfully wondered how things would turn out. Gilbert called him as merciless as ever. Willie said that Haku shouldn't be targeted anymore, but he still advised staying alert. He also suggested quickly giving her an amulet with their family crest. He was excited to design the item and fill it with defensive magic. Gilbert noticed that Willie had taken a liking to her. Willie described Haku as pure, honest, and as friendly as a loving family member. Gilbert pointed out how soft Willie was when it came to family, and Willie replied that Gilbert should feel the same since they were in this situation together. Gilbert didn't know how to respond, so he dropped a bunch of love letters and marriage proposals meant for Willie. He complained about how hard it was to reach the famous Red Noble, and the letters always ended up being sent to his brother instead. Gilbert didn't mind if Willie planned to stay single forever, but he asked him not to ignore the letters, or they would be sent to the Magic Tower instead. Willie quickly told him not to do that, and decided to ask a certain friend for help. Meanwhile, Sieg was training his mana control but kept failing. Every time he tried to pour his mana into something, it turned out murky. He wanted to create glass stones so he could use advanced magic more easily. In a flashback, he once asked his sister if the Holy Cleansing Stone was useless after being used. Ariane explained that it simply turned back into a regular glass stone. She told him that magic stones were basically glass stones made from magic sand and infused with magic. The stone she had just used was called the Holy Cleansing Stone because it contained holy cleansing magic. Sieg wondered if the used stone could still be useful. Ariane confirmed that it could, as long as he could fill it with a spell that was too difficult to cast on his own. She also said the stones wouldn't break, even if advanced magic was poured into them. After that, Sieg tried to create glass stones to store advanced magic and use them in dangerous situations. He focused on controlling his mana while using the sand on the table to make a glass stone. He almost succeeded, but the stone turned out strange and fell to the floor. Frustrated by his failure, he questioned what went wrong. Helper appeared and explained that the problem was with the quality of the magic sand. Sieg had assumed it was high quality since Willie gave it to him. Helper agreed that the sand was grade A and of excellent quality, but after analyzing it, he found that Sieg could only use S+ grade sand. Anything of lower quality couldn't handle Sieg's magical power. Sieg then wondered where they could find S+ grade magic sand. Helper explained that the deepest part of the Silent Forest had some, but he suggested going to the Fairy Forest instead. Since Earth spirits had blessed the land, the sand there should be of the highest quality. Plus, they could enjoy some sightseeing. Sieg didn't know where the Fairy Forest was, so Helper eagerly offered to guide him, acting like a tourist guide. He described the Fairy Forest as a safe, secure, and comfortable place to visit. For some reason, Sieg felt uneasy about the sudden tour recommendation. Suddenly, a strong wind blew out of nowhere. A fairy appeared and excitedly greeted Sieg. She was happy to finally meet him and gave him a big hug. She explained that she had been holding back this whole time and flew straight to him as soon as she got permission. Haku immediately tried to protect Sieg, but the fairy acted like she already knew Haku. The white tiger was shocked when the fairy used sound transmission. She knew that Haku didn't want anyone to find out she was a sacred beast. The fairy promised to keep it a secret, not even telling Willie because she thought it was fun to hide it from him. Willie asked the fairy to stop bothering Sieg. With a snap of his fingers, he used levitation magic to separate the three of them. Willie apologized to Sieg for his friend's behavior and introduced her as Frau the fairy. He explained that Frau had made a contract with him as his companion. He also shared that there had been conflicts between humans and fairies, but he assured Sieg that there was no need to be afraid of her. Frau said she was only interested in certain people. Willie was surprised that Sieg could see fairies too and asked him to keep Frau a secret. Frau was even more surprised to learn that this was Sieg's first time seeing fairies. She smiled like she had won something and decided to protect him since Willie also cared about him. She found Sieg amusing because his inner thoughts and outward actions didn't match. She then asked if he was an adult or a child. Willie reminded her that he only allowed her to meet Sieg, not to bother him. Frau called him stingy. Sieg asked if something had happened, but Willie said it was just a personal matter. While walking through the town, Frau said she didn't fully understand the situation, but she was happy to have permission to go outside. Willie hoped this would stop the young women who kept chasing after him. Sieg had a feeling he understood what Willie meant, but Willie told him it was too soon for a child to know. Frau then said she would give Sieg something as a sign of their friendship. She knew he needed magic sand from the fairy forest. Sieg excitedly asked if she had it, but Frau said she had left it at the magic core. Willie agreed that regular magic sand wouldn't be strong enough to handle Sieg's magic power. Frau figured it would be fine to get some from the fairy forest if it was for Sieg's training. She assumed he wanted to make pretty glass stones, but Sieg corrected her, saying he wanted to make high-quality ones like his sister's. Willie checked Sieg's failed glass stones and admitted that Sieg's mana control was getting better. However, he found it difficult to provide exactly what his nephew wanted. Sieg asked if he was busy. Willie explained that he was working on a new type of teleportation stone and couldn't leave the magic core for a month. That meant he wouldn't be able to teach Sieg magic for a while. He apologized to both Sieg and Haku. Sieg then considered the magic core. Since it was a place to study magic, he wondered how much magic he still didn't know. Frau wanted to deliver it to Sieg, but Willie refused. He explained that if she moved objects in her current form, normal people would see them floating, which would be suspicious. He also warned her not to be alone, even in her human form, because if people found out she was a fairy, she could be in danger. Frau pouted, saying she only wanted to do it because she thought Sieg would like it. Instead, Sieg came up with an idea. He would visit the magic core himself. He admitted he was being stubborn but said he just wanted to learn magic. He was curious about the magic core and wanted to see it for himself. Frau found the idea exciting. Willie said that if Sieg were just an ordinary kid, he would have been worried, but since it was Sieg, he agreed to let him go. Sieg felt happy and thanked his uncle. He had already read all the books in the mansion and looked forward to this new experience. Haku also wanted to go, but Willie said it might not be possible. Since Haku was extremely rare, researchers would likely become interested in her. Even Willie admitted he might not be able to resist studying her. Hearing that, Haku trembled in fear and decided to stay home. Sieg admired her decision. Willie then promised to get permission from his brother and make the necessary preparations for Sieg's visit to the magic core. The next day, Theo and Ariane stood by the gates to see Sieg off. Ariane felt worried about Sieg traveling alone. Sieg reassured him that a carriage would pick him up and that he would return safely this time. Ariane and Haku promised to wait for him. Theo wished him a good experience. When the servant said everything was ready, Sieg turned to the carriage, waved goodbye to his siblings, and set off on his journey. On the way to the capital, Sieg couldn't help but feel excited. The butler remembered that it was Sieg's first time visiting. He mentioned that Sieg was usually sent to fight monsters with Theo, but didn't share much more since it was a secret. He also explained that besides Willie, the captain of the 3rd Magic Corps, there were other skilled individuals who were experts in combat, knowledge, and magical research. As they got closer to the capital, the conversation shifted. Looking out the carriage window, Sieg saw the grand capital ahead. The butler pointed out that the entrance to the Magic Corps was on the west side, but the research facilities were hidden elsewhere. In fact, he admitted he had no idea where those crazy researchers worked. Sieg reminded him that his uncle was also one of those researchers. The butler trusted Sieg to keep things confidential. When they arrived at the entrance, a girl informed them that only Sieg was allowed inside. It was a rule. No attendants were permitted. The maid worried that Sieg was too young, but the girl firmly repeated that it was protocol. The butler reassured her, saying there was nothing to worry about since it was Sieg. Still, the maid remained concerned, but Sieg told them to relax and enjoy the capital while he was inside. Even so, he felt a little uneasy about his guide. The girl assured them that safety was guaranteed. Sieg had imagined the Magic Corps would be a magnificent place, but once he stepped inside, it looked more like a haunted house. The guide casually warned him to watch his step and walked ahead. Worried, Sieg asked her not to leave him behind. Since he had already decided to go alone, he quickly followed. Soon they reached an eerie-looking large door. Sieg wondered what kind of research facility might be hidden behind it. The guide activated a magic crystal, and as the door opened, a bright light blinded Sieg. What he saw next was nothing like the dark and creepy hallway. The inside was bright, lively, and much bigger than he expected. A massive tree was growing within the building, and a strange liquid flowed down like a small waterfall. It didn't look like water at all. Curious, Sieg asked if the liquid was tree sap. The guide was surprised he noticed. Sieg explained that he had read about paint and chemicals on magical devices being made from special tree sap. He wondered if this tree was unique as well. The guide was momentarily speechless, and Sieg apologized for getting carried away. The guide introduced the tree as Amrita and explained its significance like she was ChatGPT. Sieg was overwhelmed by all the information. The guide continued, saying that the researchers used the waste from their experiments to fertilize and maintain the tree. Sieg realized that the researchers and the Amrita tree were supporting each other. The guide nodded, agreeing that it was a good way to describe it. At the entrance of the research facility, Sieg looked around with excitement. The guide told him that the captain was just behind the door and then walked away. Sieg was surprised because he still had more questions. A girl nearby told him he could take his time exploring if he was that interested. Sieg had expected them to be unfriendly, but he started wondering if these researchers only cared about their work. Sieg opened a door and saw a huge magic stone in the middle of the room. Willie greeted him. and Sieg excitedly asked where Frau was. Willie quickly covered his mouth and reminded him that Frau had settled in a different area since some researchers could see spirits. For now, he said that Frau sent her regards, and that they would meet again soon. Sieg's attention then shifted to the large magic stone. Willie explained that it was a new type of teleportation stone. Unlike regular ones that could only send people to a fixed location, this one allowed multiple destinations to be registered. It could move a person to different points instead of just one. The spell configuration was finished, but they were still testing it to make sure there were no problems with teleportation. Sieg found it difficult to understand but still called it amazing magic. Willie agreed, saying it would change how people traveled and could even replace carriages completely. Then he offered to give Sieg a tour. Just as they excitedly planned the tour, the teleportation stone started acting strangely. The entire facility shook like an earthquake. The researchers panicked, unsure why the stone had gone out of control. Its glow became brighter as they rushed to shut it down, but they were too late. Willie tried to reach for Sieg, but before anything else could happen, everything was swallowed by a blinding light. Sieg lost consciousness and tried to understand what had happened. When he opened his eyes, he found himself inside what looked like ancient ruins. Confused, he wondered where he was. Luckily, Willie had been teleported with him. Willie checked on Sieg, asking if he was feeling alright after the forced transfer. Sieg assured him he was fine and asked where they were. Willie looked around and confirmed that they had been transported inside a dungeon. He explained that it was a lower-level dungeon, something he had already checked. He couldn't understand why they had ended up there. He suspected there was a problem with the magic that transported them, but such an issue shouldn't have happened unless someone had purposely changed the magic's structure. Sieg asked if something was wrong. Willie admitted he was just thinking and felt embarrassed that he didn't know the exact reason for the transfer. He also confirmed that the dungeon wasn't registered in the teleportation stone, meaning their destination had been completely off. He wanted to figure out the cause right away, but knew they had to find a way out first. Sieg asked if they could just teleport outside. Willie explained that he had an emergency teleportation stone, but dungeons had restrictions. Inside these spaces, teleportation magic wouldn't work, and even if they used the stone, they wouldn't be able to contact the magic core. Dungeons were mysterious structures scattered across the world, each with a different environment. Many countries were studying them to determine if they were powerful illusions or something else entirely. One thing was certain: any magic meant to escape was sealed inside, and anyone who died in a dungeon would be absorbed by it. Deep within these dungeons, rare treasures and artifacts called ooparts, believed to be from another world, could be found. Willie called dungeons dangerous but admitted they could reveal many secrets about the world. Sieg became excited when he heard about the ooparts. However, Willie noticed signs that the dungeon had already been explored and assumed the treasures had been taken. Sieg then wondered if his bad luck had caused them to be teleported there. Willie explained that they had two options to escape: follow the path leading upward, or defeat the dungeon's boss monster at the deepest level. He then had an idea. He suggested Sieg fight the boss monster alone. He told Sieg it was the perfect chance to test his training and learn through real combat. Sieg hesitated, unsure if he could defeat the monster. Willie revealed that the dungeon's boss was called the Red Sword King, a B-ranked monster. It was the same level as the one Sieg and his brother had fought in the forest. Sieg immediately thought it was reckless, but Willie believed Sieg had the ability to win. When Willie smiled in a mischievous way, Sieg felt uneasy. Willie insisted that defeating the boss monster was the fastest way out since they were already deep inside the dungeon. Suddenly, a girl's scream echoed from a nearby tunnel. Sieg became worried while Willie was doubtful about the voice. Before Willie could stop him, Sieg ran toward the sound. Inside a room, he found a girl with animal ears trapped in thick cobwebs. Willie arrived and found the scene unsettling. Alongside the girl, there were two large spider monsters. Willie turned to Sieg and asked if he was ready to prove the results of his training. Sieg used his appraisal eyes and discovered that the spider monsters had advanced earth magic. Without warning, the spiders shot out thick, sticky threads. Willie quickly grabbed Sieg and dodged the attack. He told Sieg to aim for the spider's eyes and joints because those were their weak spots. He reminded Sieg to attack like he did in training, but with more force this time. Sieg already knew which element to use against the earth-attributed spiders. He used Wind/Hurricane to cut off the monster's limbs. Willie praised him, but Sieg suddenly warned that another spider was coming. Without even looking, Willie casually blocked the attack. With a quick flick of his wrist, he easily chopped the spider into pieces. He felt a little bad for killing Sieg's practice target. Sieg, however, was truly impressed by his uncle, who seemed to have no blind spots or weaknesses. Willie then reminded Sieg that they needed to rescue the others. He cut down the spider threads, and Sieg used wind magic to support the falling thread cases and the girl inside. He helped the girl and asked if she was okay. As the girl opened her eyes, something suddenly rushed past Sieg. A bald man in heavy armor appeared, holding the girl in his arms. Sieg couldn't believe he had let his guard down. The rescued people called the girl Her Grace, and she in turn called the other girl Dia. They were relieved to see each other safe. The girl was happy that Dia was unharmed but pointed out that her ears were showing. The bald man guessed that her magic tool had broken. It seemed to be a secret between the three of them. Sieg wondered if having visible ears was a bad thing. To help, he offered his cape to cover Dia's head. The bald man then asked who Sieg was. Sieg hesitated, but Willie stepped forward and introduced them as simple travelers. However, the bald man noticed the Magesta Magic Corps badge on Willie. Dia confirmed that Sieg and Willie had helped her, and the bald man expressed his gratitude. Willie downplayed his role, saying that Sieg had done most of the work. The bald man then thanked Sieg for his bravery. Willie also mentioned that they had rescued 2 more people. The bald man asked about the others, but Willie said it was best if they didn't see. The other thread cases contained only clothes and armor. He explained that dungeons absorbed bodies a few hours after death. The spiders' cocoons drained their victims' energy until they died. Looking sorrowful, the bald man said he should at least bring back their belongings to their homeland. Dia called those who had died patriotic knights who never hesitated to give their lives for their country. Sieg felt guilty for not realizing it sooner, but Leah assured him it wasn't his fault since they had been prepared for it. Even so, Sieg could see that she was shaken, so he offered her some cookies. He told her they were delicious and even joked that they weren't poisoned. Dia looked sad, but when she took a bite, her expression brightened. She found the cookie tasty, which made Sieg happy. He encouraged them to have more. However, the other girl hesitated, saying she wasn't as important as Dia. Just then, a bald man apologized for making Dia wait and informed her that he had finished gathering the knights and their belongings. He also mentioned that a member of the Magic Corps had set up a tent for them to rest. He added that the surviving knights had something to share. Sieg was surprised to learn that his uncle had something useful with him all along. Dia thanked the bald man for his efforts. She also thanked Sieg for the cookies and apologized for the late introduction. She then introduced herself as Diana von Estonia, the 3rd princess of Estonia. Sieg was shocked to realize she had been a princess all along. Meanwhile, Willie noticed traces of magic in the damaged barrier. He assumed this was why he had sensed a battle nearby. He also felt that there was something odd about the clue he had just discovered. Later, inside the tent, the Estanian knights, Camille and Daniela, said they were already feeling better. Dia also introduced her maid Emma. The bald man was Pascal von Balsmude, a count in Estonia. Dia said Pascal was the person she trusted the most. Willie mentioned that he had heard of the famous knight Count Balsmude. At the same time, Pascal had also heard of the well-known red magician from the Magic Corps. He figured it out from Willie's red hair and the fact that he was from the Magic Corps. After seeing the Abel family crest, he became even more certain. Diana was surprised that both of them were from the Abel family. Willie then formally introduced himself as the vice commander of the 3rd Magic Corps, and introduced Sieg as his nephew, another member of the Abel family. With introductions out of the way, Willie asked why the princess and her group had ended up in the lower levels of the dungeon. Dia explained that they had used a teleportation stone for a diplomatic mission, but instead they were suddenly transported into the dungeon and trapped in cocoons. Sieg realized it was the same thing that had happened to them. Pascal said that if the princess remained missing for too long, it could become a national crisis. However, they didn't have the right equipment or enough people to escape the dungeon. Knowing that Willie came from a powerful and well-known family, Pascal asked for his help. Sieg agreed, saying they had the same goal, and asked his uncle to assist them. Willie had expected his nephew to say that, but he had one condition. He pulled out a strange-looking contract and told them they must promise not to reveal anything they saw in the dungeon related to Sieg. He wanted them to swear by it using a magical contract. Camille was shocked to see a contract demon book in person. He exclaimed that it was extremely powerful because it was the highest-ranking binding magic tome, and it had no limit to how it punished those who broke its terms. It would even kill the violator. Camille couldn't believe Willie was demanding something so extreme. He also couldn't believe Willie would risk using such a dangerous contract on a princess. Willie admitted that it was a harsh request, but since they would be traveling together, the condition could not be changed. No matter who they were, even if they were royalty, he couldn't allow anyone to learn anything about his nephew. Diana understood and agreed to Willie's terms. Pascal tried to stop her, but she was determined to prevent more people from getting hurt. She declared that she was their princess and was willing to risk her life for them. Willie called her strong, but Sieg asked him not to take things too far. However, Diana didn't mind. To her, the fact that the Abel family was willing to protect them already meant a lot. She also guessed that Sieg was the gemstone of the current generation. Willie responded with a sharp look. Sieg, confused, asked why he was called the gemstone. Willie had no choice but to explain. He told Sieg that this was finally his chance to learn that he was more special than he thought. Willie admitted that Sieg held a unique position in the Abel family. Sieg already knew that Willie's ability to assess others was far beyond normal, so he had no choice but to believe him. Diana then asked for the contract book, but Sieg told them to wait. He felt it was unfair that only their conditions were being forced onto him. He asked if Diana had any secrets of her own and suggested making a contract with her as well. Willie warned that it wasn't necessary, but Sieg was willing to take the risk. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fully join them. Diana was surprised. After thinking for a moment, she removed Sieg's cape from her head. She revealed her ears and tail, shocking even her own knights. Willie assumed this was the appearance of Senzoge, returning to the ways of her ancestors. Diana confirmed that her clan carried non-human blood, and once in a long while a human was born with those traits. However, such people were rarely seen because of discrimination. She explained that she usually hid her true appearance using a magic tool, but it had broken during the recent attack. She didn't want people to know about her ability to return to her ancestors because it could weaken the royal family's authority. Her condition was simple. No one was allowed to reveal her secret unless she did so herself. Sieg agreed to the terms. Willie warned him not to reveal anything under any circumstances. Sieg promised he wouldn't let Diana or her family be sad. Willie sighed, knowing his nephew was his greatest weakness. In the end, he decided to change the punishment in the contract from death to memory loss. Diana thanked Sieg for stepping in. Willie then finalized the contract. The black paper floated in the air and split into several pieces matching the number of people present. Each piece entered the person it was assigned to. Sieg asked if that completed the contract. Willie reminded everyone to keep everything a secret. Camille swore to do so for the princess's sake, while Daniela remained silent, looking worried. Pascal then asked if Willie would now cooperate with them. Willie confirmed and promised to help them cross the dungeon safely. As the adults shook hands, Sieg told Diana he hoped they would make it out alive together. Diana agreed and shook his hand. Watching them, Willie thought he was doing this for Sieg's sake, but he had also added a few hidden conditions in the contract. Noticing the broken barrier magic stone, he realized that someone had set it up before they arrived in the dungeon. The purpose was clear: to prevent interference until Diana's entire group was wiped out. Trusting his instincts, he felt certain of this. Now, he only needed to figure out who among them was the traitor. As Sieg slept soundly, Willie spoke to someone and assured them that he would take care of things on his end. He also asked them to contact Gilbert to make sure everything related to Sieg was handled smoothly. The situation in Estonia was left in the hands of the person he was speaking with. Willie also reported the strange traces found in the broken magic stone. He suspected there was a traitor among them, possibly connected to the attack on Sieg. Sieg eventually woke up, and Willie greeted him. Sieg asked if he had been talking to someone, but Willie denied it, saying he had been busy watching over his cute nephew as he slept. Sieg then remembered that they had let the princess's group rest in the tent while he stubbornly insisted on staying outside to keep watch with his uncle. He wondered when he had fallen asleep. Willie told him it was still early for someone his age. Sieg explained that he just wanted to do something exciting. Willie reminded him that he had already been on plenty of adventures thanks to Theo. Sieg responded that he only wanted to become stronger. He admitted that he hoped to be an adventurer in the future because he enjoyed hunting monsters with the others. Willie was happy to see this playful side of Sieg. Just then, Emma arrived and told them that breakfast was ready. Willie assumed that Pascal and the others had returned. Sieg, however, was a little disappointed. He had wanted to go out and gather ingredients himself. Inside the tent, a delicious meal was served. Dia's ears perked up when Emma prepared berry sandwiches. She was so happy that her tails wagged rapidly. Sieg assumed that Dia liked berry sandwiches. Pascal was pleased that the dungeon was full of edible monsters, and Willie agreed. Pascal mentioned that he could manage the cooking since Willie had already provided the tent and kept watch. Emma also thanked Willie for the kitchen and emergency food supplies. Sieg gave his berry sandwiches to Dia. Surprised, Dia asked how Sieg knew she liked them. Sieg simply pointed at her excited tail. Embarrassed, Dia asked if he found it annoying, but Sieg said it suited her. Camille, however, got upset, thinking Sieg was insulting the princess. Sieg then called Dia cute, which made Camille even angrier. Suddenly, a knife flew across the table and stabbed into the wood right in front of Camille. Willie reminded him who was responsible for keeping them alive. Camille quickly apologized. Dia then smiled and said she was happy that Camille still treated her the same, even in her current form. Daniela then asked what their next step was. She also mentioned that defeating the boss monster was the fastest way to escape the dungeon. Willie used his search magic and shared that they were currently on floor 23, with the boss monster waiting on floor 25. He then created a hologram to display the dungeon floors and the expected monsters, including the boss, the Red Sword King. Camille was shocked that Willie could detect the enemies ahead. Willie explained that he couldn't determine the terrain, only the monsters based on his observations. Pascal said that was more than enough, as knowing the creatures in a wide area was already impressive. As always, Willie seemed amazing in Sieg's eyes. However, Sieg was stuck at level 7 and couldn't level up further. He wished to learn more magic useful for adventuring. After finishing their meal, Pascal announced that it was time to prepare and asked for Dia's approval. Dia agreed and hoped the Abels could assist her as much as possible. Camille then glared at Willy, mumbling about how geniuses seem to be everywhere. Daniela overheard his grumbling. For some reason, the two knights held a secret meeting. Daniela revealed that she had seen Willy secretly contacting someone while holding the remains of a magic stone. She suspected that the monsters had surrounded them because of that stone. She even suggested that Willy might have lured them into the dungeon to have them killed. Camille panicked and wanted to inform the princess immediately, but Daniela warned him to stay calm. She explained that acting recklessly could get him killed by Willy in an instant. Camille wished his brother was there, believing he would have been able to come up with a quick plan. Daniela then recalled hearing that Camille's brother was a highly skilled knight. Camille admitted that his brother always met people's expectations, making him the center of attention. Everyone admired his brother, and Camille couldn't really blame them. Even though he had been appointed as the princess's knight, he still wasn't recognized by others. He wondered if he would ever be as good as his brother. Daniela then revealed that she was the one who had chosen him to be the princess's knight. She believed he was the best fit for the role and acknowledged his strength in protecting the princess. Camille was shocked to learn that Daniela thought so highly of him. She then suggested that this was his chance to prove himself by taking down the Red Magician. Camille agreed and swore to protect the princess at all costs. On the 24th floor, Sieg used his refined wind magic to take down monsters with ease. Pascal was amazed that such a small child could handle so much on his own. Willy explained that this was actually part of Sieg's training. Pascal now understood why Willy had changed the contract's punishment. Sieg was truly a rare talent. He agreed that Sieg was a gemstone of this generation, someone truly special. Excited, Sieg showed off the meat that had dropped from the defeated monsters. Willy then explained that corpses inside the dungeon vanish as the dungeon absorbs them for energy. When a creature dies, it turns into chunks, which are gradually absorbed. However, if they collect the remaining parts before the dungeon takes them, they can keep them as loot. Strangely, some defeated monsters turned into processed food instead of raw materials. Willy guessed that dungeons were originally created as a kind of ranch by an unknown civilization, though Camille completely disagreed with the idea. Sieg then glanced to the side and noticed Dia's ears drooping. Sensing her unease, he assured her that everything would be fine. Dia tried to deny feeling worried, but then realized her ears and tail had already given her emotions away. Embarrassed, she asked if Sieg wasn't afraid at all. Sieg admitted that he was scared too, but at the same time he wanted to grow stronger. He wanted to protect the people he loved and avoid getting hurt because of his own weaknesses. That was why he fought. Dia smiled and called him a fine man. Sieg, however, laughed and said he was just trying to sound cool. He had always loved the idea of adventuring in the outside world. His fear of monsters was slowly being replaced by his excitement for the unknown. He then shared that he had spent most of his life locked inside the mansion. Hearing this, Dia felt sad. She could relate. She had spent most of her time in the royal palace. While she was grateful to be protected, she couldn't help but feel jealous whenever she saw children running around freely outside. Sieg could see how sad the princess was. Wanting to cheer her up, he suggested they run around for the day and enjoy the beauty of the place without the monsters. He pointed out the mysterious landscape and asked if she wanted to check out the unknown fruits and the nearby spring. Dia immediately said she did. Sieg then reached out his hand, inviting her to explore with him, and promised to protect her no matter what. Camille tried to stop them, but Willy assured him there were no more monsters nearby. Pascal agreed not to interfere with the kids, but asked Emma to stay close to them. He had never seen the princess this happy before and hoped Sieg would be a good friend to her. Willy agreed, believing the two would get along well. Sieg and Dia went on their little adventure, examining the strange fruits and visiting the spring. There they spotted a small monster that looked confused, but Pascal quickly took it down before Sieg could even draw his sword. After that, they enjoyed a relaxing lunch together. Later they discovered a treasure chest, but it turned out to be a tricky trap. Camille, who had been keeping a close watch on Sieg for leading the princess around, finally eased up a little. Before long, the group reached the lowest level of the dungeon. A large door stood before them, leading to the dungeon boss. Camille immediately suggested taking down the monster and heading home, but Willy told him to relax. Everyone was tired, and facing a B-ranked monster in that state would be dangerous. He recommended resting first and dealing with the dungeon boss the next day, especially since he wanted his dear nephew to recover. Sieg, however, suspected that his uncle wanted him to face the dungeon boss alone. Willy then reminded everyone that it was their last night in the dungeon, but warned them to stay alert and keep their spirits up. For some reason, hearing those words made Dia feel a little sad. That night, Dia asked Sieg if he had some time to spare. She wanted to talk to him alone and had already gotten permission from Emma and Pascal as long as she stayed near Sieg. Sieg didn't mind, but he hesitantly glanced at his uncle. Willy didn't like the idea of leaving them alone in a dungeon. However, when Dia pleaded with him, saying this might be the last time she would ever see Sieg, he finally relented. To ensure their safety, he cast ice cage and monitoring magic on them. While he wouldn't be able to see or hear their conversation, he would know immediately if anything happened. Sieg then suggested going to a spot he had noticed earlier, and Dia eagerly asked him to lead the way. As he watched the children walk off, Willy recalled how Sieg had managed to protect himself from surprise attacks before. He felt confident in his nephew's abilities. For now, he focused on Emma and Pascal, who were cleaning the cooking utensils, while the knights patrolled the area. He knew this was the perfect moment for the traitor to make their move, and he had to catch them at all costs. Meanwhile, Daniela quietly pulled out several magical tools. Camille, noticing her actions, asked what they were. Daniela explained that they were necessary for protecting the princess. Among them was a magic stone that could help conceal their actions. She claimed it would allow them to trap the Red Magician. She then handed Camille the magic tool and the stone, instructing him to follow her lead. She insisted that this was all to protect the princess. They had only one chance, and she was certain they could eliminate the Red Magician, the one they believed to be the true culprit. The kids arrived in a place where the night sky had 2 moons. The ground looked like an old battlefield, with swords still stuck in the earth. Dia found the scene beautiful and Sieg was happy that she liked it. Not wanting to stand while talking, Sieg created something from the ground. When Dia asked what it was, Sieg simply said it was something comfortable, like a sofa. They both lay down on the beanbags and sank into them. Dia felt so relaxed that she forgot why she had come to talk to him in the first place. After a moment, she expressed her admiration for Sieg, even though they were the same age. She thanked him for all the help he had given her. Sieg, however, said he was still learning since there were many things he couldn't do yet. He remembered his uncle calling him a special existence in the Abel family. Then, Sieg thought of something else and asked if Dia had heard about the gemstone. Dia admitted she didn't know much. She only knew that the Abel family was one of the supporters of the Mangesta kingdom's founding. As a reward, they were given the title of Marquis. Since the king's second son had married into the Abel family, they also became known as the Second Royal Family. Sieg recalled hearing similar things from his uncle before. Dia guessed that the gemstone was something the Abel family had protected for generations. She believed it was their family treasure. She explained that gemstone was a title given to the heirs of certain families. With a powerful house like the Abels, they would never forgive anyone who dared to harm their treasure. Many people wondered what kind of power the Abels' treasure had that made them guard it so closely, but no one truly knew. Sieg wondered if he was really that valuable. Was he truly the Abel family's treasure? Dia said that was all she knew and assumed someone would explain it to Sieg in the future. Sieg apologized for asking something difficult, but Dia didn't mind. She understood that keeping secrets meant carrying great responsibility. She was the same way. Sieg agreed, realizing they were more alike than he had thought. Hearing that, Dia asked Sieg to call her by her name without any formal titles. Sieg tried but still used honorifics. Dia, frustrated, shouted at him to be more casual. Sieg was startled, and Dia quickly apologized for getting too excited. Then, Sieg asked what she had originally wanted to talk about. Dia admitted that she just wanted to be friends with him. Even though Sieg knew she was a rare case of someone resembling her ancestors, he still treated her like a normal person. Because of him, she had come to see adventuring as something fun and exciting. The time she spent with him had been truly enjoyable. When she returned to Estonia, she would have to go back to being a princess and wouldn't be able to experience this kind of fun again. But for now, she wanted to enjoy their time together as friends. She wanted to spend the rest of their adventure in the dungeon just as 2 equals, not as a princess and a noble. Sieg understood how serious she was and casually called her name. He admitted that he also wanted to be friends, not because she was a princess, but because they were the same age. He had fun being around her, especially watching her tail move. He didn't want to stop talking to her, so he promised to find a way to send letters and see her again. He truly wanted to meet her once more. Rising at 5 years old, confirmed. Diana felt happy and hoped they would meet again. Her beauty under the night sky left Sieg speechless. He didn't know what to say, but he was sure Diana would grow into a beautiful woman someday. Meanwhile, Willy looked around and found the locations of the kids, Pascal and Emma. However, he couldn't sense the knights. He assumed they were the traitors and had already moved. What shocked him more was that they had a powerful magic tool that blocked his magic. Suddenly, a magic stone shattered nearby and Willy realized it was a presence blocker. He quickly checked his monitoring magic and spotted Sieg nearby. Then he saw someone running and decided to chase after them. It was Camille, carrying Sieg. Willy wondered why they had taken Sieg instead of the princess. His face darkened as he swore not to forgive them for harming Sieg. He rushed toward Camille but only found Sieg lying on the ground. When he checked, he realized it wasn't really Sieg. It was a doll disguised as him. At that moment, Willy understood that the knight's real target was him. Before he could react, the doll exploded. Camille took cover and then checked to see if Willie was buried under the rubble. When he saw what had happened, he celebrated, thinking he had defeated the Red Magician. However, he was suddenly betrayed. Daniela stabbed him in the back, saying he was no longer useful to her. She couldn't believe he never found her suspicious. She was glad that someone as foolish as Camille had survived among the knights because the others would have been harder to manipulate. Camille weakly asked if she had been lying all along. Daniela confirmed it without hesitation. She admitted that everything she had told him was a lie. She never recommended him, never planned to protect the princess, and the plan to kill everyone had been hers from the start. She also called the magic tool she received useful, seeing someone like Camille had been able to defeat the powerful Red Magician. Now, only children and an old warrior remained, and no one could stop her anymore. Camille tried to stop her, but Daniela pushed his hands away in disgust. She mocked him, calling him poor and brainless, saying his only purpose was to die in the dungeon so the dungeon itself could take care of everything. She declared that the princess and her group would disappear soon. She also mentioned that Camille's brother was still out there, and that no one would mourn his death. With that, she walked away, leaving Camille to lose consciousness as he slowly died. A short while ago, Sieg and Dia heard a loud explosion. Sieg assumed something had happened and quickly ran back to the camp. When they arrived, they saw that the final door was wide open. Pascal and Emma asked if they were okay. Dia wanted to know what was going on, but Pascal didn't have an answer. They had only heard the sounds of battle outside the tent. Emma explained that the tent had been sealed with magic earlier, but Pascal broke the seal to escape. At that moment, Willie's ice cage shattered, shocking Sieg. He immediately worried about his uncle. Then Daniela appeared, injured, and explained that they had been attacked earlier. She believed the attacker was the one who had lured them into the dungeon. According to her, the culprit had escaped into the boss's room, and Willie and Camille had gone after them. She suggested that they follow, and Pascal agreed. Daniela also asked Dia to come along, saying they couldn't rule out any suspects yet. Sieg reassured Dia, promising to protect her. The group entered the final room, where the dungeon boss sat calmly on its throne. Seeing it alone, Sieg and Pascal asked where the others were. Suddenly, Daniela started laughing and took off her hair tie. The door slammed shut and dark vines spread across it, locking them inside. Her appearance changed, and she declared that they would all die because of their foolishness. Pascal quickly realized that Daniela had been the culprit all along. She smirked and told them it was too late to figure that out. She revealed that Camille and Willie were already dead. Sieg refused to believe her, but she didn't care. The fact remained that neither of them had returned. Daniela then threw a sharp object at the dungeon boss. Strangely, the boss began trembling. She explained that a simple fight would have been too boring, so she made things more interesting by making the boss even stronger. Now, under her control, the dungeon boss stood ready to fight. With a cruel smile, Daniela looked at Dia and told her to suffer before she died. That is the end of the recap at Chapter 13. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.